So you don't get to say that there's a labor shortage, and then at the same, from the corporate side, where everybody's screaming, "Oh my God, there's a labor shortage! There's a labor shortage! We can't find anybody to do these jobs." At the same time, I see these videos all the time of young people putting out like 8,000 applications and resumes, and there's no responses. So which is it? Because you don't get to have it both ways. If you're claiming that there's a labor shortage, then what you would see, and I've been over this and over this, you would see wages going up. That's what you would see. You would see that happening. This is very simple. If there is, this is supply and demand. This is basic business, and for whatever reason, there's a bunch of people on the right. I don't know why that the laws of finance and business apply to everything except wages, right? So in other words, wages can never go up because there's demand. But if there's demand for anything else, the price goes up. No one's ever been able to explain that to me to my satisfaction, and especially if I cross-examine, because if I cross-examine, you're fucking toast. So if there's a labor shortage, then wages should be going through the roof, yet they're not, right? Yet we have what it is that, and let me just break this down, and I've been over this, but look, let me break this down for you. These companies can't afford you anymore. That's all it is. That's why they're having to import all the fucking illegals. That's all it is. Okay, it's just that simple. They're doing jobs that Americans won't do. No, that's not true. They're doing jobs that Americans won't do for free. See, the thing about being an American is that you want to be a part of American society. You want to be a part of the American experience because, you're an American, you're born here, and you're told that this is your country, blah, 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 all that bullshit. Okay, and then it turns out that, well, no, you're not really, unless you're willing to work for like nothing and make no money. And then on top of that, a company is going to do things like negotiate like this, like, hey, come into our company and work hard, and then you'll get ahead. Nobody will define what work hard means. Nobody will define what any of these things actually mean. Because see, if they started doing that, then that starts treading into the category of the way unions, the old school unions back, like 90 years ago, used to negotiate. And I've been over this repeatedly. Okay, that's where it comes down to like, okay, so in other words, there's no room for advancement at this company. I'm going to be at the same job the rest of my life. Okay, well then you need to keep up with inflation. That's it, right? Companies can't do that anymore. They can't afford you anymore. They never could, right? You understand? And I've tried to explain this on many occasions, and I've tried repeatedly. It's the bane of my existence trying to explain this shit to you, to anybody. But that's the problem with this. These companies could never afford it. That's why they have to keep printing money. That's why they have to keep doing all of the stuff that they're doing, all these gimmicks. That's why they have to keep, selling shares to people and having these opaque investors from all over the world investing in their companies to prop all of this up, even though there's no actual, that if you were to track all the money, you're going to find it comes from the Federal Reserve. That's where it comes from. It all comes from Federal Reserve. It's printed out of nothing, and then they funnel it through, 4 or 5 different shell corporations offshore, and it makes its way back to the stock market to prop all these giant companies up. It's a direct subsidy to them. That's what it is, and they cannot afford people any longer. They can't afford people to do these jobs because, especially if they have to pay $50-$60 an hour for someone to clean toilets, which is probably not true. Actually, it's closer to 150 to 200 is where I put that at with real inflation. They can't afford to pay that kind of stuff because then that will expose their Ponzi scheme. Because then you'll see direct inflation in the marketplace across the board, and you'll see the dollar turn into the Zimbabwe dollar. It'll be just complete garbage money, and then their whole scheme falls apart. Right? That's what this is. They're attempting to do what they're attempting to get around what happened in the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union collapsed, nobody owned anything, and so they had to find men of experience to go buy all this stuff up. And of course they'd use these little vouchers, and they bought everything up and they made it work, right? They're trying to avoid shuffling the deck. They cannot have real competent men take over, because it means that all of these 4th generation trust fund kids go to the bottom of the stack, which is where they belong.